Brothers, sisters of the United States and beyond, all of you among men, do justice and liberty have to be just us? Do nations have to be concerned only with the citizens of their country, or should we look to humanity as being of equal value? Surely it is impossible for an individual nation to look at citizens of other nations as being just as valuable. Surely, with humanity as it is, this is impossible, correct? Incorrect. For us to move forward, we must take up a spirit of humanitarianism and liberalism with how we regard the rest of the world in a way that we have not seen in recorded history. Now, there's quite a bit of recorded history, and even on all that time, tribes, nations, clans, states, city-states, countries, nations have always vied against each other. But there is a chance now and always for us to be human beings. To not look at our neighbors in other countries as being a problem for the freedom and a competitor for the resources of our citizens, but of equal value, of equal worth, and deserving of justice and liberty, just as our own citizens do. Now, to be a human being and to be an American, these two things do not have to go against each other, but for some reason, in most nations, and definitely in ours, they seem to be at odds. Why does being an American and being a human being have to be of separate concerns? Why are we so obsessed with the nations in which we exist, the place in which we live, that we cannot acknowledge that every human being feels like us, bleeds like us, wants similar things, wants to live and be left alone and not to be harmed, and to be given a fair shake? Why does this have to be just in individual nations, and why can't we just all look at each other throughout humanity with this eye, with this perspective, that everybody deserves the same thing as we do, even if they're in a different nation? You can say, okay, well, we don't have enough resources, we don't have enough. Every nation has to look out for itself because they're isolated peoples with different cultures, different ethnicities, different religions, different political ideas, and different desires a lot of the time, different ideas of what a perfect world is. How can we possibly have concern for other nations, almost, if not as equal to the concern for our own citizens? The evolution of human society has been one of trepidation, pain, false glory, and dead ends. Many political ideas become dead ends when they refuse to see that human beings evolve into greater and greater degrees of compassion and mercy and connection with the internet, with the connection that nations share in relation to trade, in relation to migration, even illegal immigrants. Why can't we view everyone as deserving at least a chance, even if they commit a crime? Like our own citizens, even if they commit a crime, why not give everyone a chance? Whether they come here illegally, whether we go there illegally? Why can't we have a degree of prosperity, of compassion that we've never seen in the United States or in any part of the world throughout recorded history that we know of? We, as a nation, the United States of America, we were founded on the principles of justice and liberty for all. It's even in our Constitution and our anthem. Does this mean just citizens? Does this mean that we can't look at other human beings as human beings? Does this mean that we have free reign to use them, isolate them, and tear them apart, families apart, if they come to this country? Or should we treat them as human beings, and even if we deport them, give them a fair chance to explain themselves, give them a fair shake, give them a chance to work? Okay, well, there's not enough jobs. You can say that, but we have food rotting in fields because illegal immigrants worked a lot of those fields that have been emptying recently because of fear and because of deportation. So, in these fields where food is rotting, the farmers are not prepared to pay a citizen what the minimum wage is. So a lot of this food goes unharvested, and even if they're willing, a lot of the time there isn't enough people who want those jobs. The jobs are open. and taking children from their parents. How would our forefathers look at us if they saw what we were doing to families? And okay, our president right now, our commander-in-chief, says, okay, we're stopping taking children away from parents. Then how about we reunite those families? How about we don't keep children in detention centers as young as 4 and 5 years old, separate from their parents, psychologically damaging them, and keeping their parents in separate detention facilities. Their parents a lot of time being forced to work for 50 cents a day and are forced to buy their own toilet paper, which is next to slavery. I'd call it slavery. But having the psychological trauma placed on those kids because of what we're doing to them is the worst part. 3 and 4 years old. Would our founding fathers look at us and say, oh, yes, you have to treat immigrants like this, of course. Of course they're all a danger. Even children are a danger. Even if parents come in with their children, obviously they're going to deal drugs, and they're just going to use their children as a pawn. We have developed a slightly twisted ideology, polluted by some of the citizens in the United States. We've decided that being an American means everything for America, and anybody who disagrees with it, screw them, even if they're American, and that we have to be Americans only and not human beings. When did this happen? This should not happen. We must change. We must be better than this. We must become someone better than this, a country better than this, so that we can be an example for humanity again, that we can look at one another as human beings and not just different citizens in different countries. Let's look back to this country's founding and see why this country was founded. Examine it. Decide if these borders around our country are worth the travesties we commit against our fellow man, are worth our very human souls. Is national identity worth a lessening of compassion, even a drop, let alone what it's been decayed into? We all share a little bit of blame for the politician we have now as president, this so-called businessman. But we can do something. We can support getting money out of politics so that individual donors, rich people, don't control our entire political system. Put a limit on how much money anyone can receive from an individual donor, and we'll have our democracy back again. This is a first step, but we must never forget those children in camps right now, those families, those men and women in different camps right now. Because how we treat the least of us is how a country is judged in history. What happens to the people who need the most, who come into our country even illegally, or people who are in poverty? How do we treat them? We must look at that and not think that we are great because of some other advances. How do we treat the least of us? Examine this. Let us bring back a spirit of liberty and justice like the world has never seen, instead of committing travesties in the immediate history that the world did not expect of us, because we were supposed to be so much more. It's not just Trump. It's not just Republicans. There's been a lot of travesties, and a lot of it's covered up by this fake media war between Republicans and Democrats, but in truth, it's ping pong, back and forth, back and forth. We get tired of one, then we go to the other party, back and forth, and the grind keeps continuing. Let us be better. Let us be more. Let us be human beings once again. Thank you very much. Be human, for God's sake.